Let's carry on the conversation and talk more about camping and RVs. Bob Martin, Thor Industries President and CEO, joining us now on the line. Bob, thank you very much indeed for your time. How many RVs are you selling right now, and how much of this is down to what is happening with COVID?
You know, right now, for us coming into the year, we had a very strong sales period in January, February, and even early March. So most of our dealers were probably up 20%. So the industry was quite strong. And then when mid-March hit and everything stopped, we could see our web searches on our corporate and all of our companies and our dealers spike. People were home, they were sheltering in place, and they were trying to figure out how they were going to get around the country this year. And like many, they're not traveling overseas, no cruising. Many don't want to stay in hotels, but those are our perfect customers. So literally, as soon as our dealers were starting to open, it was over a 45 to 50-day period. Their sales, most dealers have caught up from where they were from being even shut down. So their sales are surpassing last year already. And you can see it in a couple of the public companies, Lazy Days and Camping World, as they report just a huge surge. And a lot of it is probably some pent-up demand from people from shows, but also a lot of people trying to figure out the new normal. And some small motorhomes like this Delano and this Airstream behind us are just easy ways to get around.
So, Bob, who are these customers? Like, are they the old-timers like Guy who love camping, want an RV this summer, or the people like me who've never done it before and are totally scared to do it? Like, give me a sense of which one is it and how that affects maybe the sales and price point.
Well, it's both. So for us, truly, you may get someone that they may have a pre-existing condition, they may be a little bit older, and they don't want to fly. And so behind me, I have my mother-in-law's motorhome that she drives back and forth to Florida with her husband and a couple dogs. And this motorhome is actually was delivered yesterday, and that's for my wife and my kids and I to take short trips. So we're seeing, all walks of life. And then we're also seeing this huge influx of younger buyers that maybe just trying to get some space from the city. And so we make a smaller version that is, retail starts at $85,000 in our sequence in Tulare that will sleep for, a couple, small family, and they're very easy to drive. It's just a large van on a Dodge ProMaster chassis. But even these Class Bs on Mercedes are very easy to drive. I've always had a big motorhome, and my wife would never drive it, but she saw this little Delano and she felt comfortable behind the wheel. So I think we're seeing a lot of things converge at one time, and it's kind of the perfect timing.
Bob, you bring up a point. Here in Europe, we drive smaller cars, and as far as I can tell, kind of RVs are much smaller as well. Like certainly the ones that I see driving around. What does the market look like in Europe? Is it different because of that scale? Is it different because of the type of vacations we take? I'm just curious as to whether there is a difference in the response to the virus in the United States versus Europe.
It's different varying by country, but Europe, the driving force is Germany. And for us, we finished a little over a year and a half ago the acquisition of the Erwin-Heimer Group based out of Germany. And so 6 of our production facilities are in Germany. We have 1 in Italy, and we have 1 just north of you, Guy, in Consett, UK. And typically, they are smaller motorhomes. So the market itself lends itself to be more camper van, more B van, but they are definitely smaller. They don't have generators, they don't have air conditioners, and a lot of it's weight restrictions in Europe. But that market in Germany primarily right now is really following the U.S. The big dealers, even though they were shut down, they've already caught up, and they're starting to run low on inventory in Germany in particular. Some of the other countries, just as they start up, the UK really just started to open. So we're interested to see how that progresses over time. But it started up week by week in the U.S., and within 40 to 45 days of the openings, our dealers, they had the processes down, and they knew how to service the customers in a safe way. And the interest just keeps growing.
Don't let Guy fool you. He's like 6'5". Like, there's no way he's fitting into a small camper. So give me a sense then, as we go through the reopenings, of like how sticky this is. Like, if we do reopen now, European countries can travel, people can travel within borders and stuff. I mean, do you feel like the customers are going to be sticky?
Yeah, our lifestyle, our goal forever has been just to get people into an RV, or in Europe they call it a caravan, and just so that they can see it doesn't look like a 1970s your grandmother's motorhome. The Delano has Italian cabinets, very sleek, very contemporary, and we took a lot of notes from our company in Europe, just on the ways that they're built for quality and for look. And so once people start, they typically get this camping lifestyle in their blood, and they may start small, but they typically trade up through their life. And we've watched here in the U.S. for many years people that they trade every 3 to 5 years typically. And once you start, if you have a great experience, and that's our job now as an industry, just to create a great experience. And so far, things have been looking good, and people are finding this is just a great way to travel, because you have your restroom, your kitchen, you have your shower. You really only have to stop for gasoline, and that's it. So it is really right now one of the safest ways to travel.
Okay, I just like to point out that caravan doesn't sound as cool as RV, which is maybe one of the problems that we have over here in terms of the language that we're simply using around this. Bob, what are the limitations here? Is it what you can produce, your ability to kind of make these things, or is it the availability of sites for people to go and the quality of those sites that are there? When I get to my destination, kind of, are my expectations going to be met? I got a shiny new motorhome, but I arrive in a not very good site. That's going to change the dynamic. How do these two factors work together?
Well, for us, we're typically a high volume manufacturer. One limitation we have right now are some of the chassis manufacturers in the U.S. and in Europe. They had shutdowns due to COVID as well. So that will limit some of our motorhome production. Our travel trailers in the U.S., travel trailers and fifth wheels are 80% of the market versus 20% motorhome, and it's the opposite in Europe. So we will ramp up, with quality throughout this year, and we'll ramp up as fast as we can just to meet dealer demand, because many of my calls daily are just dealers who are running low on inventory. And then to your other point, it's a great point. You have great campground groups out there, such as the KOA, Campgrounds of America, Jellystone, Trails West. So they have groups that are developing great campgrounds. But then there's a new phase, Harvest Host, Hip Camp. And people are renting out their land for people. And a lot of the new customers are looking for a different experience. It may not quite be traditional campground. And so there are just many different options for these new buyers.